Hello, everyone. Welcome to my teaching learning session. And we continue with BPCC 131 with Sonal Singh Panwar, and we continue with Unit 5 today. Continuing with the theories of motivation, telling that motivation is a prerequisite for any behavior. Why do I use the term called prerequisite for any behavior? Without motivation, without that instigation and that drive, it's difficult to start a behavior. It is difficult to achieve and have a goal directed behavior. So it's always a prerequisite. Ask yourself when studying for an examination, ask yourself when you have to get up and go for work, until there isn't any kind of motivation, any kind of drive that pushes you, it will lead to another. So, what are the theories of motivation is something that we are going to do in Unit 5 today. The first that we continue and start with revision is evolutionary theory. So, what did evolutionary theories and psychologists talked about motivation? They stated that it's biologically determined. So our motives, the drives that we have are biologically determined. It's already a part of our body, it's already a part of us. We are born, it's an innate feature. That means the process of growth, the process of driving towards something, the process of needing to achieve something, all of this are something which are innate in nature. And this innate characteristic is often mentioned of behavior as instincts. Also, behavior in humans, like instinctual behaviors like driven towards a sexual activity, reproduction, etc., all are considered to be innate in nature. So, evolutionary theory talks about two things. First, instinctual drive. Second, talks about this motivation, the drive that we are talking about, both psychological and biological, is ideally innate in nature, something that you're born with, something that everyone's going to be born with, if it's a part of their genetic mode, or probably something that's a part of their living in their family. Then let's move to drive theory. The term drive itself suggests that it's an approach of motivation that will talk about you to be pushing something. So when there's a need, it creates a psychological tension, it creates that drift, it creates that trouble where you feel like you need to push something, you need to push something away, push something to achieve it. But there is a drive whenever there's a need that you have. Like, let's take an example, a person is thirsty. So that need comes in. Until you do not drink water, what will happen? There's going to be a psychological tension, and a tension that is created in the body. Then the organism, you are driven to reduce that need by satisfying that tension, or probably giving into that need so that the tension is reduced. This is called the drive theory. This is the push that we give ourselves to go pick up the bottle of water, to drink it, to reduce that need, to reduce that psychological tension and achieve, become fulfilling in that need. Also, these theories are called, as I said, these are also called the push theories of motivation, as the behavior is pushed towards the goal. You do something. There's an activity that is done so that the need is satisfied, the goal is achieved, the drive within the person, no matter it's a person drive or an animal drive, is satisfied. Drive reduction theory adequately explains how behavior is channelized by primary drive. So, this drive theory ideally is one of the most adequately explaining that how our drives are actually pushing us every day to do an activity, to perform a task. Let's take an example. You want to excel in your class. Your body would be driven to get up on time, to be schedulizing yourself and learn along with it. So it tells us that how our primary needs of basic, of hunger, thirst, and sex is driving us to do activities in our life. So this is a drive reduction theory, which explains this adequately. Then we come to the next, which is the optimal arousal theory that we are going to talk about. This is one of the most famous theory of Yekson and Dodson in 1908 that they mentioned. They also mention it as the Yekson and Dodson law. So the law is also coming here. We can please see the graph on the top so that it gives us an understanding what it is all about. It states that the model states that we are going to function best not when we are driven too much or we are driven too less. We always function where there is an adequate amount. The adequacy, the appropriation is correct. So when there's an adequate amount of energy which is energized, neither too low, neither too high, the performance is going to be adequate, will lead to arousal. Let's take an example. When you have to get up and study on day one of your vacation, you've thought that, okay, during my vacation, I probably will be studying the first week and then do the further activities. If the motivation is too less, you felt very lazy on the day one, you felt okay, I'm just home, I can probably scheduleize according to myself. So when the energy is too low, it's going to lead to apathy, which is lack of interest, and also at times it will lead to boredom. So there's no optimal arousal until the energies are not optimal. The arousal level will not increase the performance quality. Let's take another example. You feel okay, it's 1 week, I need to be get going. You get up, in a rush, you're taking a bath, you're sitting for your paper. That too much of anxiety that creeps in will actually reduce your performance quality. Your focus will more be on the anxiety, on the performance. I have to do it, I have to perform it, I have to scheduleize myself, rather than performance. So the optimal level gives you highest quality performance according to Yexon and Dotson. In 1908, it was given. Also, this was supported by Feast and Rosenberg in 2015, telling that if the arousals are not adequate, it will lead to poor performance. It will lead to less performance, which was stated by 2015 by Rosenberg and Feast. Let's move ahead with more such theories. We have so many of theories of motivation telling us that motivation does not come from one factor. There are various ways in which motivation is explained, that it drives our behavior. It puts our behavior until there is no motivation before a behavior. Remember, I feel it's so difficult to explain that how are you doing it? What is making you do it? So motivation is something that explains us what is making us do this. How are we doing it? So as we had the push theories, now we have the pull theories. These theories are spoken of as incentive theories. The title suggests these are incentive theories, also described as pull theories by Morgan et al. In 1996. These theories were stated that motivation is not something which leads to reduction of a drive, but it talks about its result. It's a result of desire to achieve an external reward or incentive. So you perform something because you need to get something. You're getting a reward, that's why you're performing. So it's not because of a push, rather it's because of an incentive, it's because of an internal reward, external reward. Let's take an example. A lot of time little children are cycling for 30 minutes because you've told them, you come home, I'll give you a milkshake if you cycle for 30 minutes and then start playing. The physical exercise that a parent always want from a child. So if the child does cycling for 30 minutes, why? Because you've told, after after that you're done with the cycling for 30 minutes, you come home and you get your favorite milkshake in summers. So see, it's the pull that is there, that gets you out to perform something. Why? Because you're getting an external reward, there's an incentive behind it. Then we have something which are called as cognitive theories to motivation. So let's understand what is cognition. Cognition is the process of thinking. It's the process of thinking, reasoning, decision making, problem solving. So this approach states that motivation is a result of people's thought process. It's as a result of the way people think, the way people believe, the way people probably solve problems, decide for themselves, expect about a goal, of a goal. So Philman in 2015 stated this thing. You can always found it in your book also, that this approach was all resulting from a person's belief system, a person's thought process, a person's sense of expectation of a situation, person, or people. So thus a student will be motivated to study for examination based on his expectation. So say if a child really wants to score amazingly in their examination, remember they are going to put in all their hard work to perform well. At the same time, if you find a child not performing well, remember maybe it is because of the fact that the child feels that performing well, probably doing in these UTs the initial 10 markers and 20 marker exam is not that important. It will not fetch you things. So remember, it's because of the fact that what kind of expectation that you have out of yourself. It's the thinking, the belief systems. So let's take an example. Examination has been a core part of a child's lifestyle. The family enforces that performance in testing and examination is paramount in a family. You need to be performing great. All of your students and cousins, or your kinships, have been doing well in both smaller and bigger exams. Remember, the child is always going to be having a belief system. The exams are important. I need to be performing well all the time. So that is something which is I feel the cognitive approach is so nice. It is so like something that we need to be doing today. We need to build a system, an expectation system or a belief system which is so strong that makes us motivate for future, for life, and for all the activities that we are keen and looking forward to. Then there's a goal setting theory, which is given by Locke and Lantham in 1990, which proposes that motivation can be, influenced by the kind of goals that you have. So this theory stated that people perform better on tasks when they were given some specific goals rather than a haphazard state of mind that okay, do whatever that you feel is good in these in this chunk of task. You give them a goal regarding the task, that this is how you perform and this is how you need to be doing. Remember, they are going to be performing well, they're going to be performing better. Why? Because they have a goal regarding it. They have a target point regarding it. Until you do not have a target point, you don't have a set that this is what we are expected to do. Remember, a lot of people haphazardly submit their presentations, their project files, their their set of writings, because we do not set a goal for them, we do not set a standard for them. So I feel goal setting behavior is equally important. Most of the organization works like that. We need a set goal, we need smaller goals that we plant in their journey, and they keep picking up that goal, and that's how they that's how they complete the task, that's how they finish up things. So I feel it's always said that some specific goal is always important because they keep you motivated, they keep you going, they keep you running for achievement of a behavior or a task. Then we come to something which is called the hierarchical model. This model is one of the famous model that we have in the theories of motivation. One theory that none of us should forget is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow stated that there are needs which are placed in a hierarchy, like there's a triangle of needs that we have. Um, this is okay, we do not, we would be doing it in the next half. We understand this. There's a hierarchy, which is a triangle that's made. And Maslow stated that there are five needs that we have. The lower needs are at the bottom, the higher needs are above. So we start from the achievement of the lower needs and move to the highest need. And remember, until the lowest needs are not achieved, the higher needs are not going to be met. So it's important to fulfill the basic need before you reach the highest. So a lot of people who feel that successes in life will come by not eating, sleeping. No, it doesn't. Your basic needs and desires needs to be, your hunger, thirst, and shelter needs to be fulfilled adequately, and that's how you move ahead in terms of belongingness to people. Social needs, you will be then moving towards achievement, which is self esteem, and then the last need, which is self actualization, which is reaching your highest potential. So one of the most famous theory, most appropriate, it's used in organization, used in school, used for workers, any kind of workers, and even for students' thought process. So this is something which is Maslow's hierarchy of needs that completes with seven theories that we have done. Now we move to another few theories. We need to know motivation is filled with theories. The reason, because it's filled with what is causing your behavior. In a nutshell, everyone wants to talk about what is leading to the behavior, what is causing the behavior, how it is causing the behavior, etc. So let's move to the next theory that we have, the self-determination theory. Some theories are going to be very new because some theories are postulated and not very popular. They're only the theoretical part, the practical part is missing. So we need to know a lot of it is going to be according to the popularity of the theories also. So moving ahead, we have the self-determination theory, which was so recent. It's given in 2000. It was given by Richard Ryan and Deci. They stated and postulated that there are three innates and universal needs that brings the individual to complete their sense of self. So all of us have three innates and universal needs. See, innate is something which is inborn, universal is something which is common to all of us. So we are looking forward to complete those so that we complete the sense of self, building a healthy relationship with other. So these three needs are autonomy, which is a sense of controlling one's behavior, the ability to decide what you want to do, how do you want to do, what kind of activities that you want to indulge in. So that's autonomy, a sense of autonomy. Then we have something which is which means also mastering your task and challenges. Then there is something which we call as competence. Competence is the ability that you have to complete a task, to master a task. So I also feel competence is also mastery over a specific thing. It could be a subject that you are very excelling in, so it's going to be competence. Then we have relatedness. It refers to a sense of belongingness and forming relationships. So see, didn't we not take care of everything? Autonomy, your ability to control things, your ability to decide for yourself. Competence is your ability to perform a task, excel in that task. And relatedness again comes down to the social parameter. We talk about you as a control, we talk about you as achievement, we talk about you as a sense of belongingness and security to people. So these are three needs according to Richard Ryan and Deci stated that we need to have to become the to feel motivated to complete a task, and these needs are universal and innate, which is we are all born with it, and these are universal in nature. That means it's common to all. Then we come to the cell theory of motivation. This was given by Carol Duke in 1919. Again, not very old a theory. It's quite, these theories are quite what do you call this? These theories are quite closely built. It's not very far. It's not been 2 to 3 decades that these are old. They're just a decade old theory that we talk about. And the psychologist stated that Carol Duke stated, proposed that the achievement is related to personality factors. So we need to know achievement to things are related to personality factors. They associate to an individual's self or personality, and the need of motivation is influenced by the perception of yourself. How do you perceive things, actually influences your motivation. So belief about one's ability. You have a stronger ability about yourself, you believe that, you'll be highly motivated. You have a belief system, your relationship with other people are far better than the others, you have an amazing social skill. Remember, this belief will be probably make you more motivated to be along with people, to interact with them more, to be the people's person. Why? Because you feel you have the ability to form relationship with others and you're very strong with that. So this said that this need of achievement is influenced by the kind of perception that you have of self. This affects your success and failures of one's action. This approach is closely related to locus of control. So when we talk about locus of control, it's trying to talk about that this need is strongly associated to Rotter's locus of control. What is locus of control? Does your ability to see things falls inside? Like, are you motivated, driven because you want to do it? You feel it's a need of the hour. I need to prove myself, or because of the fact that it is because of the praise coming from people, the incentive coming from people, probably the monetary benefit which is coming from outside. So it said that this theory, the self theory, is also very closely influenced by the kind by Rotter's locus of control, the thought of locus of control. Why? Because perception is again how do you think about yourself, how do you perceive yourself, and so locus of control is also about what you want inside and what you want outside. So that completes with one of the most simplest theory, and one now we have Adolphus ERG theory, very famous, a theory which is done rounds around the world. It's taken from a lot of other theories. Adolphus theories of ERG has taken up from others' theory also a little bit, but it's quite famous, quite applicable. You will see it very applicable. So let's read. We also have the image above, and you find that ERG theory in the nutshell in the image. Let's know about it. But it was given by Clayton Alderfer, and it was around 1960s and 75, 78 that it was given and the theory was postulated. The theory was an entire motivational model. So it was an entire model that runs around, and it was based again on Maslow's hierarchy and picking needs from everywhere. We have relatedness here too. So he picked up the hierarchy which Maslow had, and he used his own idea, and he made an acronym of three core needs, which was existence, relatedness, and growth. So we have the same needs of hierarchy model, but we have bricked them. We've given an acronym that the basic needs, which is hunger, thirst, shelter, and sex, and safety, comes in existence. The relatedness will talk about your belongingness to other, the belongingness and self-esteem. Self-esteem is your need for motivation, need for achievement. That together becomes relatedness, and growth, which is the highest need, is called as the self-actualization along with self-esteem. See, achievement needs to be there if you reach the highest potential. So let's learn. At the lowest of the hierarchy are the existence need, because for the existence you require your basic needs to be fulfilled. You need the hunger, thirst, sex, and shelter. You need yourself to procreate. Once you procreate, have a family, you need to have a shelter which is safe and secure. So these are the existential and basic needs. The next comes the relatedness needs, which is completely associated to your social competence, your competence of being with people, your competence with interacting with people, your competence with of in terms of your competence of knowing people. being with people, socially being aligned to people. And the last and the most highest is reaching to your highest potential, which is self actualization. First is the self esteem, which is reaching and making your achievements mark, making it be available to people. And the last is something which is self actualization. The most productive is the last one, which is self actualization. We will see again the ERG theory is something which is present and associated to the motivation of employees, productivity, controlling abstinence, talks about who needs to be promoted when, etc., etc. So this talks about Alderfer's theory. Please have a look and go through it, and then we move to the next. Now, let's go ahead with the Herzberg's two-factor theory, another theory which you feel is like somewhere happening all around you. So this is so realistic and so applicable that you will find very practical as a theory. I feel Herzberg's theory was very practical, something that I feel even we are assessing all the time. We are assessing it every time when we are going to a place of social category, going to a place of achievement, going to a place of up growth and upliftment. We are looking to these motivators. How? He said that there are two main factors, which is hygiene factors and motivational factors, and that states satisfaction and dissatisfaction and leads to motivation and no motivation. So let's take an example. You go to a place which is high on motivation, there's a lot of recognition, there's work which gives you recognition, and there is responsibility, there's advancement and growth. Remember, there's this workshop that you go for, which talks about application, that talks about you getting a certificate, using that certificate and applying it in the field of psychology. And in the same time, you are getting this certificate where the hygiene factors are bad. Remember, the work, it's very hot, and company policies are bad. There is less, the certificate that you're doing has lesser remuneration, does not have much security in future. It is still a category that needs to be booming in the country. That means we do not see the scope of it. So remember, such things will impact you while you're picking a job, while you're upgrading yourself. So hygiene factors, usually feel a very small part of our organization, but they're a huge part that can make it a do or die for a person. Why? Remember, the hygiene factor talks about the company policies are very comfortable. There is a lot of supervision. People guide you a lot. People take care of you in terms of relationships. Social bonding is a lot. Work conditions are very favorable. That means there is a very polite and a very humble environment, and the staff is good. The work conditions are good. Work conditions. We'll talk about having a pleasant, airy. Probably let's talk about having an air condition and being there in warm environment, having a sunny room, clean washrooms. They are all work conditions. Having lifts, all of these are work conditions. And then the remuneration, the amount of money that you're getting, the salary that you're getting, and the last is security. Security, the place is at a safer area. The place is at an area where you can commute easily, where you can, look forward to be at a safer environment. There are no intimidating people in the company or the workshop area. You find people to be of high competence coming along with you. Remember, you're high likely to be a part of that organization or that workshop. So remember, the motivating factors and the hygiene factors also contribute to satisfaction and dissatisfaction of our task and further impacts our motivation. Then we come to Miklan's acquired needs. This is again a very famous theory of Miklan's acquired needs. This theory was developed and postulated by David Miklan in 1987, and it was highlighted that we have all three needs. What are the three needs? We find it in the image given. It's the need of achievement, it's the need of power, it's the need of affiliation. The need of power is taken as NPOW. The affiliation is NF, and the achievement is NARC, which is achievement. Let's talk about it. These three are given by Miklan. These are the needs which are ideally essential for motivation, good motivation, to be feeling buffered. So first is the need of achievement that we have, which is the drive to excel, achieve in relationship to to a set of standards, also strive to succeed. So when we talk about achievement is that need to succeed in life, to achieve something, to become something, to raise your standards and have a recognition and the ability to excel. The need of power is to control others, to fall onto others, to have the ability to influence others and get your work done. That's another thing. Power is also about getting your work done. It's just not about just influencing people, taking control over people, but taking control of their mind so that they listen to you. They are something which is under you and need. Like bosses having that need of making people do things according to themselves, that the need of power, and they make it happen also. Then there's a need of affiliation, that is the need of friendship, good bonds, good relationship around people and with people. So this is the Miklan theory, the Herzberg and Miklan theory with the two images. We can please have a look at it. Let's move ahead. Now, when we talk about motivation so much, we need to. I feel this is one topic that we should not miss out on. Why? Whenever there is high motivation, and motivation leads to goal achievement, achievement of a task, achievement of a thing. Remember, if that doesn't happen, what will happen? If you are not able to achieve that task, if there is so many blockages, so many hurdles coming into it, what happens then? That happens two factors, two things tends to happen. One is frustration, the other is conflict. So what is frustration? Simple, something that we have heard in everyday life. Frustration is about when a goal directed behavior or an achievement thing that you want to achieve is blocked due to some or other reason and leads to psychological situation known as frustration. So frustration is what? It is blocking of goals or a goal directed behavior. And what are the sources of frustration? How are we frustrated? What can lead to our frustration? Frustration can happen because of environmental factors. At times, we could get late to a place that you need to present because there is too much of heat and too much of traffic, or there's been sudden rains, like there are rains which is raining dinosaurs, and you like waiting there, and there are so much of rains, and you do not find a commutation, and you tend to go late in the presentation. Yours is number one, and you end up giving the presentation as number 10th, which is the last person. That could lead to frustration. There could be personal factors. Frustration could be personal factor, which is boredom. It could be lack of ability, lack of competence. Other personal factors could be probably too much of consumption of time, being very busy, etc. And remember, conflict can also be a source for frustration to happen. So we can think because of conflict, we can get frustrated. Conflict is, choosing between different contradictory motives. It could be a positive, positive, and a negative, negative, and a positive, negative. When a conflict is positive, negative, it causes least amount of frustration. When it's positive, positive, there is frustration, but it's still manageable. When it's negative, negative, it's high amount of frustration with a lot of mood swings. Now let's talk about a very nice hypothesis which was given by Dollard and Miller, and we all should be knowing this. This is called the frustration aggression hypothesis, and the frustration aggression hypothesis is also known as the frustration aggression displacement theory. This hypothesis states that the blocking of goals, which is frustration, is the cause of aggression. So once your goals are blocked, you keep getting frustrated, leads to anger. It leads to aggression, and because of frustration happens aggression. So according to Dollard Miller, frustration leads to aggression. So that's the hypothesis. Once your goals are blocked, it gets irritating, it gets frustrating. You're not able to control your temper. Remember, comes the aggression. Could be a verbal aggression, could be at times for a lot of people it are physical aggression. We tend to hit people. It could be bullying, proactive kind of an aggression, verbal aggression, etc. Now let's talk about the type of conflicts that we have. As I just spoke to you regarding it. One is called approach and approach conflict, which is want to go for a movie or want to go shopping with your mother. Both are great. It will lead to lesser amount of frustration. I'm sure there's going to be no aggression. You will try to pitch in into both. So it's an approach, positive and positive. Then we talk about something which is avoidance, which is negative and negative, which is probably going to college, right? And at the same time, going for a meeting for which you're not prepared. So going to college, you're not submitting a project today, and going for a meeting that is something that you don't like and don't want to be a part of. So they both are avoidance, which is both is negative, but the amount of frustration that you have is quite high here. Why? Both are the tasks that you don't want to do. Both are the tasks that you're not interested to do. So it will cause you more frustration. Remember, the amount of frustration that it causes will lead to more amount of aggression. Now, then we have something which is approach and avoidance, which is one positive and one negative, which is probably going for a movie or going for an interview. Let's not take an interview. interview has to be an approach. I feel people who are wanting to land up with jobs has to be an approach. Let's take an example of public speaking event where you are dragged purposely and going for a movie. So I'm sure you want to go and relax somewhere. It's going for a movie. So that's something in approach and avoidance. Against the amount of again the amount of frustration here is lesser in comparison to avoidance. In comparison to negative, the frustration is far more higher. It's far more difficult to deal with it. Then we come to the last conflict that we have, where our contradictory needs and motives in double, which is double approach and double avoidance. That speaks of there is two sides, that you have multiple needs which are positive and multiple needs that are negative, and you need to choose amongst them. It gets very confusing, gets very frustrating also. It gets very aggressive at this double approach, and avoidance is very messy, it's very difficult also, and gets confusing for the person to understand. So please look forward to the page which is be ahead, which is frustration and conflict. This is the two types that you can talk about: approach and approach. Two desirable outcomes, two unattractive outcomes. Approach and avoidance, one attractive and unattractive. The amount of frustration is going to be least. Multiple approach is something which is double, and multiple avoidance. Here we talk about two things, two desirable things together, two undesirable things together. So we are dealing with two of them together. So that is multiple approach and multiple avoidance. So this completes with, if something is not completed, if your motivation is not giving you, fetching you result, if the desired behavior doesn't happen, what will happen? It will lead to two things. Either you're going to be conflicted or you're going to be frustrated. According to frustration, Dollard and Miller said the frustration can lead to something which is aggression. Now let's start with a very amazing unit which is called as the Unit 6. Unit 6 talks about emotion with us. It talks about that, okay, when we talk about motivation, motivation is also coupled with one feeling that we have, which is emotion. Motivation and emotions are two sides of the same coin. Why? Because at times, along with motivation, along with that drive of sense of feeling, a sense of belonging to that, always comes together. And emotions are feelings in motion. So when your feelings are in motion, you need to be driven, you need to be instinctual to do something, it should come from within, so you need to be motivated. So they both play a very important role for directing your behavior. Remember, if you are way too driven but you don't feel happy, do you feel your results are going to be something that you're desiring? No, it's not going to be a great achievement. Then Ekman in 1980 stated in his seminal work that the facial expressions propose that there are six basic emotions that has been recognized across cultures. So across cultures is stated that we have six basic emotions: surprise, fear, happiness, sadness, disgust, and anger. So fear, anger, disgust, sadness, happiness, and surprise. So though now contempt has also been added, but we still feel that we have something which is six basic emotion. We don't talk about it as seven. We still consider it six, given by Ekman in 1980s. Let's move to the understanding of Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin has the person behind Origin of Species, and the evolutionary perspective of emotion was also kept by Charles Darwin, because Charles Darwin was somebody who stated that there is survival of fittest in the evolutionary times. The ones who are the fittest survive and move to the next generation or moves to the next pathway, and the other gets famished. The other just moves away. He proposed that primary emotions have an evolutionary basis, that they have been a part of our species heritage from time on. So we also state that primary emotions are innate, something that has been coming from a very long back. People from different cultures are also able to recognize these emotions. Why? Because they're innate. We all comprise of same primary emotion. So I feel happiness and sadness is something which is going to be common in all the cultures. Tell me, if you see a child crying, will you expect that it's happiness? No, in our culture, that is also something which is sadness. That's also something which is disappointment. So Charles Darwin stated that primary emotion has their basis in evolutionary perspective, which is they are coming from a species heritage. It's common and universal to most of the culture. Your facial features of happiness is going to be common in all culture. The time that you're glowing and happy, it's something which is visible, replicated by everybody's happiness. Then feelings, what do we consider emotion? Feldman stated feelings that generally have both physiological and cognitive element that can influence your behavior is something which is emotion. So a feeling, a sense of feeling that is biological and at the same time have cognitive, the thinking, reasoning senses influences your behavior. This was given by Feldman. Mishra stated that a state of being moved, stirred up, or behaviorally aroused on experiencing an emotional situation, which is both internal and external physiological changes, will be brought about by emotion. So, according to Mishra, emotions is a stirred up condition where it will lead to jittering of you, movement of you, you are stirred up behaviorally, you look forward to things around. Also, it's aroused in an experience, an emotional situation that is both internal and external biologically. So remember, emotion is just not felt by your facial expression, your hand movements, by your gestures, by your movements behaviorally, but also something which is felt by your body, by the chemicals inside your body that creates that feeling of six emotions, basic emotion that is being given to us, which is fear, disgust, surprise, sadness, happiness, and anger. So these were six, and a little introduction of what emotion is all about. Let's look at the pictures on the side. Beautiful pictures of children telling the different kind of emotion, not just six. There's so many of them. Let's look at the picture. Happiness, sad, angry, excited, afraid, shy, guilty, tired, jealous, loved, hopeful, bored, proud, sorry, embarrassed, and surprised. So, do we see that? And we see the basic emotions also. We see sadness, happiness, we see embarrassed, we see surprise, we see fear, we see anger. So, this is something which is a little introduction about what is emotion. Let's come to the types of emotion. This is so important. We need to understand when we talked about the six emotion, we need to understand what kind of feeling these emotion gets to us. Let's talk about happiness. Happiness is not what? Happiness is also not just feeling glad, not just about feeling good about something and a feeling that is pleasurable, but also a feeling that makes you feel secured. We are happy because we know this is done, this is for us. So that's the feeling of calmness, that's also the feeling of feeling secure. So it's a feeling being able to achieve when something makes you feel pleasurable and elated. Let's move to the second, which is fear. Fear talks about any situation that induces the feeling of terror, makes you doubtful, makes you worried, also makes you feel okay, probably my well-being is being threatened now. Also, fear plays a very important role in our survival. Remember, people who are far more terrified, afraid, horrified, and stressed and panicked will not be moving from one goal to another far more easily. There'll be tough people to push, there'll be tough people to make you move. So that's fear. It's closely related to survival instinct. Then we have sadness. Sadness is that feeling of feeling lonely, grief and discontentment. Also, sadness gets that feeling of being, unhappy with things. Also, at times, troubled, continuous trouble and grief, being heartbroken. You can even pick up situation that can make you feel sad. That's also on the image, please. We've done happiness on the image, we've done fear, we've done sadness. Let's do anger. Anger is when we're able to reach our goal and there is a sense of frustration that provokes anger. When you're not able to reach your goal, there is the possibility when we are not able to reach our goal, it sets in frustration. You feel annoyed, you also feel trapped, you feel why this goal has not happened, why was I not able to do it. That comes in the form of anger. You feel insulted. What do? You hurt people outside, you verbally hit people, you hurt others, you get irritated, you insult others, you bully others. That's anger. So anger does come out of frustration. I feel it's like it's Dollard and Miller's concept hypothesis. Frustration lead to aggression is quite right. Then let's come to surprise, the last on the image. Surprise is that little brief emotion that generally gives us that aha feeling. That's the feeling of shocked, being a little shocked. It's generally intense and it's a response to something that has happened. So it's a stimulus response, a response like a bright screen opens in front of you and you find an information that you've been needing for long. That is something which is a surprise, and it has to be useful. And surprise can be both favorable. Remember, it can be unfavorable also, and it is how it is physiologically characterized: widespread, open-eye state of shock. So it would be a shock when it's going to be unfavorable, and it's going to be very exciting when it's going to be favorable. So that's surprise. And then we come to the last, which is disgust. Disgust is felt with a situation or environment that is probably very repulsive, something that makes you feel uncomfortable, make you feel, evokes a sense of disgust, and makes you feel offended, disturbed, uncomfortable. It could be a smell, it could be a place, it could be a person, generally an act done by a person, like at times people scrouching their nose all the time. It's disgusting. Some people not being able to manage themselves is very annoying. That could lead to disgust. So that unpleasant feeling which is evoked by looking in something, a situation which is unhygienic or repulsive, is something which is disgust. So these are the six basic and the types of emotions. So if you feel all of this, these are the basic six that I'm sure we all might be feeling. We have that feeling of happiness, sadness, moving in a pendulum. Also, anger and disgust, surprise and fear. All of this moves in a pendulum, goes up and down in all of us. So if we are feeling this, what is the need of it? Why do we need to feel emotions? Do we really need that thing? Does our motivation requires that feeling? Can we do without it? So let's now move to the next thing, which talks about what are the functions of emotions. Does it do us any good? Does it has any good to us? It does. We need it. Why do we need it? See, the functions of emotion is to, obviously, emotions prepare an individuals for action. You see something, you display a sense of emotion, it prepares you for something, that this is something, it has to be done. Also, emotion aids in communication. I always feel that you are happy and you wish somebody good morning with that happy face. Tell me that that actually impacts your interaction, makes your communication far better. Emotion plays an important role in your future behaviors of an individual. That means it just molds your behavior better. It presents a complete behavior. So stating a comment that today was a okay day, now you put it out with emotion. Today was an okay day. That means there hasn't been too good, hasn't been any harm. So see, it serves the purpose of shaping your behavior, makes you prepared. Also, helps in ineffective interaction with others. It shapes your communication, puts it in a brighter way, and I feel it aids communication. Imagine talking to somebody without emotion. Hello, how are you? How's it? You have no emotion in your face. Remember, it actually, it completely closes that communication factor for you. So, yes, we do need emotions. It has a function which is very, very prominent. Now, let's come to the components of emotional process. The components are cognitive appraisal, subjective experience. Yes, emotions are subjective experience, different to people. And subjective in nature. Thought and action tendency, you think at times in the emotion and then you act it out. It's again an internal bodily changes. Remember, at times emotion, the mood swings are coming because of hormonal changes. It's also a response to emotions, like a unhygienic situation and disgust is a response to it. It's a cognitive appraisal. That is emotion, the first component of cognitive appraising a situation thoughtfully. Emotion comes into play. So here the situation is assessed on the basis of personal meaning. So emotional, the components are, we are able to cognitively appraise the situation. Once you look at other people's faces and you see, okay, it's a good day today, everyone's happy, you prepare yourself. That prepares you for an action. It's subjective, it's both thought and action, it's physiological, and it's a response, can be a response to a situation also. Now let's move to mood and emotion. So mood and emotion, what's the difference? Is there any difference between emotions and feeling and emotional mood? Yes, there is. Emotion can be something which is emotion can be something which can be differentiated. Differentiated from mood, which is mood can be defined as an affective state, which is something operates on the background. Let's take an example. You come to a room which is closed. Your mood are affective states that actually are working as per the background of the consciousness, tends to be lasting longer than most emotion. So let's take an example. You saw something very terrifying in the morning. Situation based, you felt horrible about it. It's been very bad. The sense of grief is and the sense of discomfort is moving on, not for one hour like emotion, going on for a day. So moods usually last longer. That's why you don't please ask people, how's your mood so bad? And you end up saying, my mood's not been great for past 2 days. So moods is far longer than an emotion which is felt. Moods can make an occurrence of a certain emotion more likely than any other. Emotion have a cause that is clear, which is moods are very uncertain. They prevail for a longer time, they get delusionalized, they get blurred also, so no proper focus for a longer time. And emotions are more clearer, like and they are brief. They can be for a few seconds, it could be half an hour. Comparatively, moods are longer. So that's the difference between mood and emotion. Let's come to moods and feelings. Emotions are comparatively more complex than feelings. Feelings are just expressed. It's an expressive mood. It's basically an affective process that is very simple in nature. Emotions can be both subjective and objective. You can tap down on your emotions. Psychological, psychometric testings are there that can actually tap down your emotion, but not your feelings. Feelings are so subjective. Like you saw somebody in the morning, you're feeling great. You saw the same somebody, you might be feeling very annoyed by the end. So feelings are very flickery, and also something which is more subjective in nature. The same situation can be assessed by 10 people differently and felt differently. So it's very subjective. Emotions are both subjective and negative, subjective and objective. Emotions comparatively are more complex. Feelings are expressed and they are shown. And also, physiological changes are experienced, physiological changes may not be noticed. So, in a feeling, the changes might not be noticed. Emotions, it's something which is far more complex. So, changes at times are noticed and not noticed, but feelings are something which you express too much. It's very expressive in nature. It's the response. It can be tapped, it can be experienced, it can be shown. So that's emotions to feeling and emotions to mood. Remember, it's an umbrella term. Moods come into that, feelings come into that, but they are seemingly same, but not interchangeably used. We don't use it. Even your day-to-day language, you say I have a bad mood. You don't say I have a bad feeling. You never use that word. So that's something which is the difference between emotion, feelings, and mood that we talk about. So this is a mood and emotional thought that is being stated. Emotions Emotions often called as feelings is love, anger, joy, panic, and emotions are related but equally different from mood. Emotions are specific to a particular event and usually fairly short in duration. And obviously, emotions are specific. They are short in duration. Moods are far longer. Moods are general feeling of happiness, sad. It's a general feeling that prevails for a longer time. At times, can lead to anxiety. Also, can lead to frustration. Also, if they last longer. So mood can be a longish process than something which is emotion. Let's move to the theories of emotion. Equally important and beautiful theories that you will see that not only support us in understanding but also tells us that why it is so important to have a feeling and how it can be differently explained. So this is a beautiful theory by James Lang. It's an American psychologist and a Danish American psychologist and Danish psychologist. American was William James, and Danish was Carl Lang. Both of them work together to give us an understanding of emotions. That emotions are because of bodily changes. So you see the process. I'll make you understand theoretically, and we'll go to the image first. So we experience a bodily change as emotion. We perceive that bodily change as emotion, and then we react to that situation on the basis of whatever emotion that is being observed. So the emotion that we feel takes place because of the bodily changes. Let's take an example. There's a dog, barking at you. That's the stimulus. Physiological changes, a sudden fear, increase. What is happening? Increased palpitation, sweating, shortness of breath, uh, also too much of sweating, shortness of breath, lot of discomfort, sense of sense of losing space because the dog is just in front of you. That is considered as an emotion as fear. So according to James Lang, it's the physiological body changes which are experienced which labels you that this is something, whatever emotion, could be fear, it could be disgust, it could be happiness. So according to them, stimulus, physiological changes, and emotion. That's what the cause of emotion is according to James Lang theory. Not very practical theory, had a lot of banishes. It was rejected by a lot of people. Came the Kahneman-Bard theory. Kahneman-Bard theory stated propose that that the emotions that we feel depends upon the activity of the lower brain areas. So it suggested that the felt emotion and the bodily changes occur in response to the emotion are independent of one another rather than both occurring simultaneously. So according to something which we speak of as what do you call this, emotion, according to them, not two things happen simultaneously. So you do not feel the bodily changes, and also you do not feel emotions together. There are two independent processes happening, and this theory proposes that we first perceive the situation that may produce, emotion. So according to Canon Bard, you will perceive the situation, analyze the situation, and then experience something which is emotion. So this follows that there's an activation of hypothalamus, which is the lower part of the brain, the internal part of the brain, that brings about changes, makes you experience and analyze that physical change, and then you experience emotion. So according to them, the physiological changes don't lead to emotion. You have that physiological changes, you perceive them, and then emotion. So there's a longish process here that we have according to Canon Bard. Then we have something which was Singer scatter. We have all the theories together. Singer scatter was a theory which was far more acceptable by people. People stated that Singer scatter say that there is a bodily response and then there's an interpretation. Interpretation talks about the cognitive thought process that takes place. According to Cannon-Bard, what was happening? The body response and interpretation, the subjective experience was happening one after, like almost simultaneously together. So you experience body change, you label it's going to be fear, and you say, my heart is pounding and I'm experiencing fear. But according to Singer scatter, it is far longer as a process. You see a dog barking at you, your bodily changes happen, which is you first emotionally feel that, okay, my bodily changes, I'm palpitating, sweatness, shortness of breath, losing control. You interpret, I need to run from here. That running tells the dog is something I'm fearful of. You expect, put a subjective experience that it's fear. So let's now differentiate between them. Cannon-Bard theory, the common sense says that you see a dog in front of you, you experience fear, and then you run. Then the bodily changes are there. But James Lang stated that first you have bodily experiences of shortness of breath, sweating, numbness, and then you experience that subjective experience. Cannon-Bard stated it happens together. You have the fear and the bodily changes together. And Singer scattered stated the bodily responsive arousal, and then you interpret it, and then there's a subjective experience. So that's like happening together that we speak of. So that's body response, then interpretation, and then subjective. Cannon-Bard has been more applicatory. Cannon-Bard has been more expressive. Cannon-Bard was also accepted more, and then came Singer scatter. Singer scatter was more applicatory. People were more associating to it that Singer scatter events actually takes place because we do experience physical changes. Then we try and understand it, and then we label it as an emotion. Now there's another theory that came up, which is not given as an image because these theories were not very applicatory, but was a theory which was postulated. The facial feedback hypothesis, which was given by Charles Darwin, stated that the facial expressions are universal with all species. Charles Darwin even initially stated that all the emotion that we experience, the basic, are universal in nature. So experiences, according to Charles Darwin, the facial experiences are universal in nature and not influenced by culture. So the facial feedback hypothesis was supported by Zanzog and Mitonish in 1992, postulate that the facial expressions provide feedback to the brain concerning the specific emotion being expressed, which is not only enforcing the emotion but also at times causing the emotion. Let's take an example. According to them, you see someone crying, and there's this emotional movie going on in the movies hall. You see them crying, it's not going to rather reinforce you but make you feel like that, okay, the scene is really that emotional, and you start feeling that loosening feeling, that emotional, that sense of losing the grip. So that's again something which is facial feedback hypothesis, which was started by Charles Darwin and put forward by Sanso. Then we have the cognitive mediational theory of emotion. Lazarus in 1970 started emphasizing the role of appraisal. We appraise thing of the incoming information. So according to them, we cognitively interpret the situation and stimulus then response. So it's first the cognition and then we respond to that stimulus, however we feel correct, and then an emotion is felt. So this was a complete cognitive mediational theory by Lazarus in 1970. And then there is, yes, there are some measurement of emotion. Remember, there are no non-verbal instruments can be categorized as measured as is expressive or physiological aspect of emotion. As we have studies in this unit, which says that emotion can be measured in terms of facial expression. Charles Darwin has stated that. So facial expression can be captured by photographs and then can be analyzed. That's one tool. Such tool which is uses facial expression is facial expression analysis tool by Kaiser and Word. And facial action coding system is also there, which is again, I'm sure the facial action coding system is now far more AI. It's might be on under the process of AI now, because we have AI which is now encoding a lot of things for us. Then there is self-report questionnaires, which is a reporting questionnaire which tells you to report your emotion, tell about your emotion. It's subjective. It should be done objectively, should be done very correctly, because self-report measure needs to be very authentic. They're very quantitative in nature and accurate. Then we move to the block 4 today, and with a little bit of introduction and completed with 2. So today we finish with block 3, which talks about motivation and emotion, telling us motivation and emotion are two sides of the coin. Now let's understand, does these emotion, motivation and a composite actually impacts our personality? Does it does anything to our personality? It does. Feeling naughty, feeling stubborn, feeling bad tempered, distracted, dishonest. At times our feelings are also quoted as our personality. Don't we quote our feelings as personality to people? Like let's take an example, a person who is very, very anxious. So that's their emotion. They lose it. They feel frustrated and they feel anxious. You quote it as their personality. This person is always very anxious, loses control. So, our motivation, the way we are motivated and we feel about ourselves at times also impacts the kind of personality that we hold. Look at the images that we have on top over here. So it talks about being stubborn, impatient, sensitive, intelligent. We can quote this as people's personality. Careful, cheerful, optimistic, pessimistic, unpleasant. We do have that ability as human beings to code people as personality. So let's understand what is personality. Personality refers to attributes of a person that characterizes him or her. It is to understand that it makes you different from people, make you unique and distinctive from one another. So personality is not going to be same. Not everyone's going to have the same kind of personality. We need to understand everyone has a different kind of personality. Personalities are unique in nature. So when we say unique in nature, it is that characteristic that distinguishes you from the other people. Also, at the same time, we need to know that according to American Psychological Association, personality also refers to individual differences that characterizes your behavior patterns, your feelings, and your thinking patterns. So they are distinguishing you in three modes: thinking, behavior, and feeling. So personality not only just takes one attribute, I think personality takes over all the major attributes of psychology, distinguishing you of what you feel different from other, what you think different from others, and how do you behave different from others. So this is something which is another important, and it's given by APA, which is American Psychological Association. So that's something which we talk about as personality. In one last definition, which was given by Schultz and Schultz to us, personality is defined as an enduring characteristic that may change in response to different stimuli. So personalities ideally are stable, but in some situation, when we talk about situationism, different traumatic, difficult situation impacting others, impacting us, remember it will make you demonstrate characteristics which are different. But your enduring characteristic that may change in response to stimuli. But remember, it is that characteristic which is reflected again and again. So if you're naughty and you reflect it as naughty again and again, remember that's going to be something that is always going to be there with you. You're always going to look like naughty in your personality. So personality are those relatively stable characteristic of personality that almost remain same across situation and time. So that completes with something with the beginning of introduction of block 4, which is personality. Remember, personalities are going to be dynamic. They are equally going to be very stable. Some characteristics that makes you unique on the basis of how you feel, how you think, and how do you behave. So this completes an introduction of personality today. Thank you.